my friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name's Melissa, and in today's video I'm showing you 4 little projects that I did. I'm taking some thrifted and some clearance items that I purchased, and I'm giving them a little makeover, so stay tuned. In today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some things that I purchased, whether it was through Thrifting or it was stuff I bought on clearance, but I'm just going to take those items and I'm going to transform them into something that is really beautiful. And some of the things that I am flipping today, I'm going to use in my own home for my own home decor, but I'm also doing some things for my vendor booth for spring. So let's go ahead and get started. For this first project, this is going to be something that I'm using in my house, but I found this statue head or this bust on clearance. So I got it, but it wasn't the right color and it was a little too shiny. So I'm gonna use this Waverly chalk paint. I have the plaster color, but I don't have very much of it. So I'm just mixing it with the ivory color. And because the ivory, and honestly, the ivory and the plaster, they are very, very close. So I'm just mixing the two and I'm going over the whole thing with my brush. And when I go over it, I don't use brush strokes. I just kind of pat or dab the paint on because I want to make sure I get in all those little nooks and crannies that are in the statue. And I am going to give it 2 coats because I want to make sure I get it covered real well. But so I go ahead and give this is the second coat, and I am going to try it out just like this because I do like this, just the plain white, but I had the vision of going over it with a dark wax. I first coat it with a clear wax once I have both coats on there, but I put the clear wax on there because I had the intention of using a dark wax like in the hair areas and kind of around the eyes. And so the clear wax going on first just kind of makes the dark wax be a little more forgiving. But once I have that coat of clear wax on, I go in and I wipe down any excess with my shop towel. And this is the dark wax that I'm using. Let's see, Antique, is that what it says? Antique wax. And again, it's by Waverly. And I'm just using a small little brush, and I'm just kind of, it looks really weird, but I'm just kind of going into the little kind of crevices that where I want the dark wax to be, and it looks really scary. But once I have all that on, then I go back with my shop towel, with another shop towel, and I just start wiping stuff down. And I try to get as much off of the raised parts as I can, and then it's done. And it's probably not perfect, but it's a better color where I have it than just the stark white is. And I just think it looks really good with the blues and against the brick, the dark brick. So I was excited about that. But for project 2, this is something that I got from clearance on Hobby Lobby. I think I may have paid $1 for it. And I'm gonna paint it, but I don't want it to look super painted. I want it to look like it is really, aged. So again, I'm using the plaster ivory combination of paint, and I am just gonna go over all of it, the bottom, the underneath side, and everything. So I'm gonna start underneath. And like I said, I don't need for it to be perfect. So if I see that I'm missing spots, I have to, control my, urge to make it perfect. And I'm just coating it mostly. There are a lot of spots that are really jagged, so it kind of doesn't take the paint as easy, which is exactly what I wanted. But once I do this, I'm only giving it one coat, but after I do the coat, once it dries, I take some sandpaper, and I think it's probably like a 120 grit sandpaper maybe, and I'm just gonna kind of get around some of the edges if there was any paint that may have dripped, or if I see any areas that has a little too much paint on it. I'm just gonna sand that down as best as I can. Again, I want it to look aged, so I'm not spending too much time to make it perfect. And I did want to sand the top because I wanted to get rid of any brush strokes that may be on the top. I've wiped all of the sanding dust off, and now I'm going to pick out a rub-on transfer that I want to use. This is a Redesign with Prima transfer set that I actually got from Amazon, and I'll have the link for this particular set in my description box. It was actually very reasonable, and you get several pieces that you can use on several different projects. But for this piece, I want something that is gonna not really go off the edge too much, but is not gonna leave a lot of blank space. So the one that I pick is actually the pink flower, and it has the butterfly on it. So I think this is gonna fit perfectly on top. So I just cut the design off of the page, and then you just remove the clear part from the white paper, and then you're just going to use this little tool here, and it comes with it, and you just start rubbing it on. This is so simple. I have only done this like one other time, so look, if I can do it, you can do it. But this is very, very simple to do, and it makes such a huge difference in the look of a project. So you just have to make sure that when you're rubbing the transfer, when you're rubbing the clear paper, especially you want to make sure you get around the edges, because those tend to, you kind of tend to overlook the edges. But as long as you get the edges, everything else comes off really easily. And there was only one little piece on here that I had to kind of go down on one side just a little bit, but it wasn't much at all. So this didn't take any time, and once it was done, it just looks so, so pretty. But once you finish getting all the transfer off, you go over it with that little piece of paper, the little clear paper, and it just make sure it gets it into the wood real good. Now I'm putting the butterfly on there, and now I'm going to go over it with a wax coat and the clear wax. Once I go over the piece with the clear wax, this project is done, and it was so quick, and I think it turned out so pretty. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments. For this next project, I have this picture frame, and I got it from a thrift store, and it was actually already this green color, which I actually like for spring. So I'm not doing anything to the frame itself, but this is another one of those sets of transfers from Redesign with Prima. And when I first started thinking about what I wanted to do in this frame, I actually thought about this white hydrangea. I love hydrangeas. So I was excited to see this little set on Amazon. But I took the picture frame, I took the glass out of the picture frame to decide what I wanted to use. I really had every intention of using that little white hydrangea in this picture because I just thought it would be pretty because of the color of the frame. But once I put it under the glass, I thought it was going to leave too much white space because I am going to paint the little cardboard that came in the frame. I'm going to paint it white. So I knew that would leave too much. And then this one here, I was like, it's still going to just leave too much white. So I, didn't like that one. This one, I really love the color of this one, but it was going to be a little too wide. And so I saw this, and it's actually perfect. It fills up just the right amount of space. It's not too bulky. It's very airy. So this is the one that I decided to go with. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this yellow side of the cardboard that came in the frame, and I'm using the same white color that I've been using, and I do 2 coats to this because I want to make sure that there's no streaks and that you don't see any of that yellow underneath. And I'm using my heat gun to dry it just a little bit faster to make the project move a little faster. And then here I am putting the transfer on the cardboard. Now this one was a little harder, probably because I didn't kind of press the whole thing down with my hand like I should have, and there was a lot of real spindly parts. So, once I got started, it was fine. It worked out good. And even though this is cardboard, it's not a solid surface, the transfer still went on really easy and, was exactly what I had envisioned for this frame. Now I'm going to go over it with the plastic, and I'm going to go over it with a clear coat just to seal that transfer in. And because I plan on using some dark wax around the edges, just so it's not quite so stark white in the frame. But I'm just going to use just a little bit around the edges and just kind of smear it around to kind of give it an aged look. And the only thing I'm doing to the frame is just sanding it just so it looks a little aged and distressed, and then I'm going over it with that clear wax just to seal it in. And then I'm gonna put the picture back together, put the picture in the frame with the glass. I had to clean the glass real good because it was kind of funky around the edges. So got that all cleaned up. Now I'm putting it all back together, and then here is the final product, the final result, and I really like the way it turned out. I think it looks really pretty, and it's perfect for spring. For the last project, I'm just taking this little wood sign that I got from Target Dollar Spot several years ago and intended to do something with it and never did. So I decided to use the same white paint in ivory and the plaster and get that painted up. And I bought a stencil set that I got from Amazon, and again, I'll have it linked in the description box, but it came with several different stencils. So I picked one out that is going to be a good size for this, and I just gave the sign 2 good coats of the chalk paint. And chalk paint, if you're not a painter, like I'm not a painter, my husband's the painter, chalk paint is very forgiving. So if you want to get started with something, if you want to start on some kind of craft or whatever, get started with chalk paint. You can get Waverly chalk paint pretty inexpensively from Walmart, and you can get started. It's very, very easy to work with. This is the stencil that I decided to use, and it fits. I'm not doing the outside kind of frame, I'm just doing the inner part of it, and I'm using the Waverly chalk paint called Ink. The first thing I'm going to do is use some painter's tape. I'm going to position the stencil where I want it, and I'm going to put some painter's tape to hold it in place, and then I'm going to use a little sponge brush or sponge to just dab the paint on. And you want to make sure that you don't press too hard. You don't have to get everything, loaded up with paint. You don't want to do that because it's just going to smear. So this is what it looks like. And there were a couple of spots that did, there was a little heavy paint, but that's okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sand around the edges and sort of sand some of the wording just so it doesn't look quite so perfect, but I'm gonna get this sanded just so it doesn't look perfect. Once I finish sanding, I'm just using a shop towel to wipe everything off, making sure I wipe in those crevices real good, because if you don't get the sanding dust out of those crevices and then you put a wax coat on top, then you're just sealing in that dust. So if there's little crevices, you want to make sure you get all that sand and dust out. But I am using, again, the Waverly clear wax just to seal this in and seal the stencil in and seal the paint, and then this project will be done. I would love for you to let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite thing that I flipped today? If you're new to my channel, again, thank you so much for coming by. If you like all things homemaking, whether it is things like this, thrift flips, furniture flips, shopping hauls, thrift hauls, I do some videos for my vendor booth, as well as meal ideas, and my husband and I are empty nesters, so it's kind of my empty nest life. But if you like that sort of content, then please click that subscribe button and click the bell button. And if you've made it this far in the video, then leave me an icon of a flower in the comments below and give this video a big thumbs up, because it does help me out with YouTube. And if you want more thrift flip videos, then check out the box you see on the screen right now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.